Hi everybody, and welcome to this tutorial where we're going to continue in our scrapbook where we've pasted in all kinds of faces. And here you see the setup, and I've made this 2 times as big, and it's a live recording on Patreon. I'm measuring everything out for you, so that's live on Patreon. And what we're going to use is a charcoal pencil and a white pastel pencil, but of course you can also use a white Conté or a white charcoal. Any kind of white will do, as long as it's a pastel or that kind of stuff. And this is my first sketch on the cheap paper. This is a second one on a little less cheap paper, but still cheap. And then I made a huge one on my easel, and this one is the number 2, so I will also put that in front of me, and of course my example, my print. And as you can see, there are all kinds of measurements, and you can find that on my Patreon page. Also, I'm making this drawing on my Patreon page live, so I'm drawing and talking at the same time. And here on YouTube, this is a somewhat forwarded version of it to make it a little bit shorter, so but still with all the tips in them as you are used from me. And what I start out with first is the nose, because I do not know why, but I think the nose is the center of the face, that part of the face that is very important. And once I have that nose, I draw in some kind of mouth and the chin, of course. And what I also have to keep notice is that the left side of the face is much lighter than the right side. Then this is the line of the hairs, and that knot for the ponytail is outside of the skull. And here you can see the side of the face, and what we had also learned is that the earlobes are a little bit higher than the lower nose line. Now that is something that's very important if you want to create a little bit of likeness. And next, what I draw in are the eyebrows. And as you can see, they are down and then going up. And what we also know is that in between the eyes, there can be placed a third eye, so then you know the distance between those eyes. And what we've also learned already is that the inner eye corner is lower than the outer eye corner at most cases, and this has to do with the water that wants to run down. And what we have also learned is always to draw 2 lines for the contours of the eyes to keep that great 3D feel. Now I will start searching for the shadows, of course. And as you can see, on the left there are not much shadows at all, but on the right side there are a lot of them. So I'm drawing those in. And what is very, very, very important is to keep your pencil as flat as possible, and in that way you are avoiding harsh lines. So when you are sketching, you really, really want to avoid those harsh lines or contour lines. They will flatten down your drawing. So don't do that, please. And furthermore, this is my mouth. Not quite happy with it, but I will come back with that. I will have to study more mouths. And this is the part of the hair. Now, a lot of people have sent me messages that they get stuck on the hair, and indeed it's very hard to draw. And what I'm demonstrating here is that also for the hair, I try to think as a sculptor. So I simply look for the way that the hair is falling, and I'm drawing in that direction. And here you can see that little loose bulb of hair. You can draw that in too, of course. And then simply I try to look at that ponytail, point out the main directions of the hairs, and also I draw in the areas that are falling in the shadow. And in that way I very quickly get a quite convincing wig going on there, just by pointing out the directions and trying to make the hair fall around that skull. Then next stage will be, in my case, the eyes themselves. So I give a little color to the irises, and I try to make the top lines of the eye match each other. And as you can see, the left eye has a lot more contrast than the right eye does. And that's, very obvious, because the right side of the face is all the way in the shadow. So automatically there will be more detail and more contrast in the left side, in the left eye. And you always want one eye to get a little bit more attention than the other eye, because that is what brings your drawing to life. Now, I'm not happy with the lower lip here, so I'm simply putting in more shadow to make that a little bit smaller. The lower lip was too thick. And what you can also do, of course, is get into more and more detail. But what is very important is that the main setup is correct. Because if the first volumes are way off or not correct, then it would be a shame to continue in that same drawing and putting in all kinds of detail, because the fundamentals are not correct. So first you want to get good at drawing fundamentals without concerning yourself with all kinds of detail. And what you see me doing here is getting some kind of a soft feel, and for that soft feel I am using my blender stick. And with the blender stick you can rub down the pigments of the charcoal into your drawing paper. And in this way you get that soft feel, but you can leave that out, of course, and simply keep it plain charcoal drawing. And then, of course, there is our white pastel or white charcoal. And that's the fun part about drawing on the gray tone. You can make the highlights with your white pencil or pastel bar if you want. And in that way you really start training your sense of 3D. And that's very important when you want to become a portrait drawer or any kind of drawer at all. is to always think 3D, think about roundness, as if you were drawing a sphere, but this sphere contains eyes and a nose and lips and hair. So I hope that makes sense, but that's what I'm trying to train myself when I sketch around. And that's also because because I have put up this sketchbook with all those prints in them. Maybe you've missed it. It's in last week's tutorial. You can see my sketchbook with all my models in them, and all of these models are going to be drawn by me. Not everything will be recorded, but most of it, I hope. And then once you've drawn all kinds of studies, then you can see yourself evolving. And well, this is a little bit daring, but what I've done here is I've taken my natural charcoal and I simply put in a dark shadow on the right side of my model. And this is also, because it's just a mere sketch, an awesome way to start experimenting for yourself. It's just a sketchbook, remember, but we're going to save our sketches and learn from our mistakes. I think this is quite a good study. My model looks alive. There's not a lot likeness yet, but that will come. So if you want more information, please check out my Patreon page. And for now, I would say I will see you next Friday.